Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comics. Mike, we did not get an issue of our favorite book in June, but the first week of July delivered Conan number 12, the summation of kind of almost like a year's worth of storytelling in a little bit, if you kind of really piece together what's been going on from Conan 1 to Conan 12. Get Jim Zub, Della Torre on the art. One of the best covers of the year, in my opinion, as well. I thought that was just an outstanding cover that we
That's
had there.
really cool.
You got a chance to read it, Mike. What were your initial thoughts on Conan 12?
Well, I was just thinking, wow, it's been a year since the return of Conan, and this story is just really awesome. Grim Jim brings it, and Rob Delatore brings it, and puts it all together in this final issue of the first year of Conan. And it was just a well told story, of course, well drawn, and I can't wait for the next one. I can't wait for the next one. It was so cool. Of course, we love Conan, and when Conan's done right like this, it's just amazing. I love these pages that Delatorre did with no panel borders. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, it's this side.
Yeah.
You know, I love, and he had a couple of them in this issue. It was just so cool how he designed these pages. They're panels without borders, and it's so cool. You can tell he really just loved the heck out of it. Here's another page. Oh wait, this one.
Yeah.
No borders, just beautiful artwork, amazing draftsmanship. So cool. And Conan just looks like Conan. The story reads like Conan. It's great Conan. What else can you say?
Yeah, I think the thing that when you read this story, and I love to see, a little bit of an origin story for Thulsa Doom in the book, and you kind of wrap up this adventure where Conan's been thrown into the past and um interacting with Cole and the Spear Slayer and just all of that. I think one of the things about Conan that has just stood out to me, and I think where this book did such a good job, obviously, in a Conan story, he's probably going to win. But I think the fact is that the choreography that's in the fights between like Conan and Thulsa Doom, this Delatorre just does such a good job of capturing that
Oh man. Yeah.
aesthetic of the time period that Conan's in. You kind of it's one of those things where like it's not there, but it's almost like the movie is playing in your head kind of thing. It's so lively, it has so much color, so much vibrancy, so much to it that just brings it to life. And it's you've talked about how you really like Delatorre because it kind of reminds you of that old Kubert art. And it's so on the button for that. And that it looks exactly as you'd expect it to. I think that's the coolest thing is, one of the main challenges I think for an artist is after a character's been around for as long as Conan has, it's really hard for an artist to come in and like draw the character in any kind of different way because you know what that character's supposed to look like. And so often, you'll get an artist on a book and they'll be drawing whether it's Batman or Superman or anything like that. And it just doesn't look right. Like the whole time you're reading the book, and it's just like something about the facial structure or something of the character doesn't look right. Every single panel, every pose, every action shot, Delatorre just nails how Conan is supposed to look. It just captures it so perfectly.
You know what I would say is, like, when you harken back to the early 70s when Barry Windsor Smith was drawing Conan for Marvel. It was Marvel, right? Yeah. Um, you know, Barry Barry Windsor Smith had a great finesse for the character, and I loved it. I loved it, but that Kubert edge, the way the brushstrokes and the inking, that Kubert, the style that he did, especially on his early '70s Tarzan work,
Mhm.
and Delatorre just it brings that edge to Conan that the character needed, you know. And I will go out on a limb and say, from what I've seen, I didn't read a lot of Conan in the '70s. in comic book form. I read a lot of paperback books of Conan,
Yeah.
but this may be the best comic version of Conan that's ever been. Between him and Brathwaite, they both bring, they used to say, what they say, the savage brush of Kubert, that kind of thing, because his draftsmanship has that edge when they take the brush to the ink and put it on the character, and you can tell, like, I don't know if that's a different type of pen that he uses to draw that, or he actually brings in the brush. But it's just really cool, and it gives that Conan edge that Conan needs when he's being drawn in a comic book. You know,
Yeah, I think one of the things is what makes Delatorre and I think Brathwaite equally on the book is, like you said, Conan shouldn't look like a Spider-Man comic book. It shouldn't look like Batman. It shouldn't look, it should have a different aesthetic to it. There should be something when you read it. Maybe it's just it needs to look a little more visceral. Maybe it just needs to look a little more sharp, something like that. Whatever that quality is, they've gotten two artists that do such a good job of bringing that with every issue. And that
absolutely,
the fight scenes are brutal but not over the top. I think that's the thing that I really love about the book is the fight scenes are brutal, but it never feels like gore for gore's sake. It never feels like, it's just needlessly gory or anything like that. It kind of feels like everything is intentional. And that's what I've really, wrapping up an entire kind of year of Conan. And obviously it's continuing and we're super excited about that. But what I love is everything in this book always feels intentional, right? When there is a mature content in it, it's only story based. It's never just there to be there. There's something to it whenever it's, whether it's Conan with women or the way women are drawn or the violence is drawn. All of it's intentional. All of it serves the story. None of it is there for just, hey, let's just throw something in to throw something in. And that's I think goes down to so much what Zub is doing, and I think what Heroic Signatures and Titan have done with this book is when you read this, every single page feels intentional. You don't feel like there's any filler. You don't feel like there's any space where they wasted your time. Every line of dialogue seems to push the story forward, serves a purpose, yet you still get some character building. And I think it's just fantastic. You're holding up a page there, with Conan, and it's something where again, Brathwaite, like you
look
said,
at
those
that.
pages where there's no panels.
Look at that. That's so cool. I mean, every panel is a work of art. The thing that I miss about old comics and what you get in new comics is that some of the panels feel rushed,
Yeah.
and then they spend, they spend their artistic, um, uh, they spend their artistic talent on a splash page here or there. But even in like a small panel like this, like Conan just picking up the sword,
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
just attention to detail. Well, and like
yeah,
you pointed out, I think one of the things that's great is this is like the last page of the story right here. This looks like a pinup page in an old like 70s Marvel book
yeah,
that they
yeah,
have. Instead,
yeah.
it's just a page that's in the comic. And I think that is what you mentioned with that is just how much this book, as a buyer of comic books, I think one of the things that I most appreciate about this is it's 3.99. You get a great book, and the art is literally better than every other book right now. There's a
Yes.
lot of good artists. There is no one drawing as well as Delatorre. Period. I think he is the best comic book artist by far. And I think what's really cool is I love that they have where we can get a 4 issue arc. I think that's the great thing is look, I don't expect Delatorre to draw every issue. But they give
Yeah.
us a 4 issues of Delatorre. You get 4 issues of Brathwaite, 4 issues of Delatorre, and then I think we, based on the solicitations and what was written in the back here, looks like we're getting 4 more issues of Brathwaite. And again, as a comic
And
fan, that's
you
all
go,
we can expect. Is look, I don't need you to give me the same guy every issue, but give me a little consistency. Like have the guy finish his story.
and those Brathwaite issues were just as awesome.
No, they're just as
It's
good.
like, oh my gosh, yeah,
No,
you got
that they've gotten two guys who completely nail the vibe that Conan should have. Um,
it's like a 1-2 punch. You
yeah,
got your Brathwaite punch, and then you get your Delatorre punch, and
yeah.
they're both good. It's like, wow. was really cool. And the
Well,
writing, oh my gosh. I mean, Grim Jim brings us great stories every issue.
yeah, I
And
think this is we say this a lot with this book, but one of the things that I most have always liked comic books for, and it's a reason you and I love this hobby. It's why we've talked about it so much. You want something where you pick it up and for whatever amount of time it takes you to read it, you get to disappear into those panels for a bit. Right? It's not the most important thing in the world. It's just a comic book. All those things are true. But what's really great is the great stories, the great ones that can tell a tale where for 10 minutes in between your workday, whether it's on your lunch or your break, or I know for you and me, like with my wife and kids running around stuff, and I finally get like 10 minutes to sit down and read a book. It just absolutely transports you to that time, and you kind of just can completely disappear within the story.
I
And
mean,
what
and
it's just it's great. It's a great story.
Thulsa
Um,
Doom looked so menacing. It was amazing. And then these little, at the end, it kind of brings back his interaction with
Yeah, Gosha, yeah. Yeah,
Yog and it was just so cool. Like he was invisible to Thulsa Doom because he was, out of time, I guess, is what they were saying.
yeah.
And then Yokusha says, mortals see you as you see yourself. On the other hand, I see only the absence of your form in a hole in the air where you are yet should not be. I was like, that is really cool.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think that's one of the cool things that they do is like for different characters, they nail the voice. I think that's one thing I have to give Zub a lot of credit on is each
yeah.
character sounds different. I think, one of my favorite writers ever was at the time when he was back at Marvel in his heyday was Brian Michael Bendis.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Michael Bendis, my only issue with him ever ended up being a lot of times when he wrote a book, all the characters kind of ended up sounding exactly the same. Right? You'd read an Avengers book and you could have Wolverine and Spider-Man and Captain America and Luke Cage in the same room, and they all kind of talk the same.
Yeah.
And again, I love Brian Michael Bendis. He's one of my favorite writers. What I love about Zub, though, is when he's reading this book, Thulsa Doom, Yad Kosher, Conan, all of them have a distinct kind of speech that you can tell. They're all written as different characters, as they should be. And I think that's something that misses in a lot of modern comic books is that element of just nailing the voice for your characters in each panel. And they do a great job in this story of doing that.
And then look at this panel right here. I'll try and close. I mean, you know, it's so cool. Look at the little chalice in the foreground. You
Yeah.
didn't have to put that in there. If this was like a different artist, they probably just would have rushed over that. But Delatorre puts it in there. There's little details, man.
Yeah.
Little
No,
detail.
it's truly we say this a lot. It is truly the best comic book right now. Every
So
single
good.
month I look forward to it. It never lets us down. Cannot wait to see it continue on. I think 13 comes out I think this month as well. Doug Brathwaite back on. I believe it looks like from the previous it's touching on the Frost Giant's daughter, the classic story. So we'll get to see a little bit of that revisited, which I'm really looking forward to them doing that. But overall, does not disappoint at all. I always put this at the top of my stack of comics. It's always the first one that I read. It is always worth whatever time of delay it takes.
How about our viewers? How many of you have decided to pick up Conan?
Yeah, absolutely. We always like to hear your guys' thoughts below. If you have picked up Conan, what did you think? How did you think about the story? Obviously, we're trying to do a little bit of light on spoilers and stuff like that. Since it's newer, we always want to make sure, we kind of build it up and talk about it a bit, but we want to make sure the story wise that if you haven't gotten a chance to read it, go ahead and read it. If you have not read Conan, it is only 12 issues in at this point. There's a couple trades you can pick up pretty good price. It is definitely worth your time. If you're somebody who's frustrated with modern comic books, if you've checked out a little bit but want something to get back in, this is a comic that values you as a reader, values your time,
Yeah.
makes it worth your investment. Absolutely worth reading. So please check it out if you can. We're not associated with Titan or anything like that anyway. We're just two guys who love comic
Two
books
guys
and
in a
really want
stack of
for
comics.
people to read this book because it's what comic books should be. As
Yeah.
always, folks, let us know what you think below. We thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your week. God bless you and have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.